Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.
On behalf of the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University, Ahmedabad, I invite you to this another lecture on professional news writing, which is from paper 8 in the MA Journalism and Mass Communication course. So welcome to this video lecture, which is the part 3 of Unit 1 of this lecture series. And we are recording this from Chaitanya Studio at Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University, Ahmedabad. This is a very important topic in journalism and mass communication, and I'm going to talk in details about a lot of these things related to objectivity and subjectivity. And before I start with describing it from a journalistic point of view, it is very important to understand the concepts of objectivity and subjectivity. When we talk about objectivity, we actually mean that different people will look at the same thing similarly. So from a philosophical point of view, if I see something as good, everybody else will see something as good. Now we know that this term good can be a very subjective thing. What is good for me might not be good for you. What is music to me could be noise for you. What is pleasant for me could be unpleasant to you. And there are a lot of psychological concepts involved here, and I just want to take a small detour before I start this presentation on talking about what is known as confirmation bias. So apart from the concept of objectivity and subjectivity, we are also faced with another issue which is known as confirmation bias. Now let me explain this very clearly. Now you would have seen that most of the highlights that we see on the sports channels across all the Indian news channels or across the Indian sports channels, we'll see that they show us most of the matches where our team is doing very well, because we want to see things which make us feel good, or we want to hear those kind of statements, or we want to hear those kind of debates which are or which are similar to, or which is something that I agree with. For example, if there is a debate in which party A is being criticized, and if I am a supporter of party A, probably I do not want to listen to all those criticisms. So that is known as the confirmation bias, that I want to use content, or I want to consume content which is closer to my beliefs. And if I don't get those kind of content, then I have what is known as cognitive dissonance, that I don't feel good about that. That is one part of it. So even in those cases, if there is information that I don't feel like watching, or if it is against things which I believe in, or it goes against my beliefs, then probably I don't want to have those kind of content. Subjectivity is something else. Subjectivity is one's own personal views, one's own personal opinions. And in many kinds of research that is required. For example, we want to find out the views of a person who is an activist, who is an expert, so on and so forth. Objectivity is different, that everybody would see the same thing similarly. In terms of journalism, when we talk of objectivity, it has a different connotation. So let me talk about the concept of objectivity in journalism, for example. So as we've seen in the earlier 2 lectures, journalism is the practice of gathering, assessing, creating and presenting news and information. It is also a very critical medium for public awareness and understanding. People know that journalism provides a very important element of public life, for example, and which is visibility. Something which is there as a journalistic output is what is there for everyone to see. And that is why it is a very important medium, or journalism is a very important profession, because it provides visibility to a lot of people, to events, to issues, so on and so forth. In clearer terms, objectivity means the practice of maintaining neutrality and impartiality in reporting. And these are 2 very important terms. neutrality and impartiality. I'll come to this once again very soon. So, objectivity aims to present facts and information without influence from the journalist's personal biases or opinions, and that is a very important thing to remember. And this is one area where social science is very different from other basic sciences, because it is very difficult to take the observer out from the experiment himself. For example, we are always there. Our experiences, our consciousness, our subconscious mind is always there present with all its biases, with all its likes and dislikes. So, when I am writing a news, my personal biases is there. So, there are ways in which I have to get over this. Now, obviously, we cannot go against nature. So, we will have to make sure that we have certain do's and don'ts which allow us to attain objectivity. And subjectivity, as we have seen, is reporting that is influenced by personal opinions, beliefs or biases. It is not always a bad thing. For example, we want to know that what is a person's subjective opinion. So, we would want to know that what is the subjective opinion of a local politician, for example, of a local expert, for example, of a cricketer, for example. So, it involves analysis, it involves interpretation, it involves a specific viewpoint, and it offers a personalized perspective on news events. And this is something that we require. We require that personal perspective in news events. So, objectivity, it tries to keep away, or it tries to do away with all our personal biases or opinions. And there are ways in which we can do that, and we will talk about that in today's lecture. And subjectivity is influenced by personal opinions, biases, beliefs, and it is not always a bad thing, because at times we do require personalized perspectives on news and events. What is subjective information? So, subjective information reflects the individual or collective perspectives of the authors. Now, when it is an individual perspective, it is probably an expert who's speaking, it's probably a celebrity, it's probably a person whose individual perspective matters. So, for example, when we are talking of cricket, we could be talking of senior cricketers, or when we are talking of say, for example, moon landing, for example, we would be wanting to know the perspectives of other experts in their fields, their subjective opinions about how certain things have gone or not gone. At times, subjective reporting could be about collective perspectives also. So, when it's about a community, when it's about a group of people represented maybe by an individual or represented by more than one individual. So, it can have personal opinions, emotions and interpretations. So, one of the important things in the subjective reporting is that it often employs emotive languages, because the idea is not just to provide information, but the idea is also affective, to create some kind of an emotion in the reader or viewer or the listener. And we know that these emotive elements are also persuasive. For example, if I can make you angry in certain things, then I am more likely to get you to act on a certain thing. Or for example, if I can make my readers empathize with a particular cause, then it's easier for me to get them to change their behavior. So, a lot of social and behavioral change communication uses these emotive languages, and personal anecdotes most definitely, because personal anecdotes are a kind of storytelling, and they tell a person's stories, and they are things that we can relate with. And we must always remember that reporting or any kind of this journalistic content is for the human being, it is for a person. So, these personal anecdotes might ring a bell with those people for whom it is written, because or it is produced, because they might identify with a lot of those issues there. So, these subjective reporting can provide depth and insight, but at the same time it can be biased, because by very nature it is not trying to look at all sides of the story, it is only trying to look at certain sides of the story. Subjective reporting is crucial in opinion pieces. So, lot of the columns that we see, or the op-ed pages, the editorial page and the page just after that, and that is as important journalism as the other kinds of reporting. So, we have already heard about reporting in earlier lectures. It is important to understand about these individual pieces, about editorials, about columns, about do it yourself, about analysis, about points of views. So, this alternative is very, very important. Subjective reporting is crucial for editorials, analysis, shaping public opinion, offering depth to news stories through personal viewpoints. Now, objective information, and we realize that very often journalism is regarded as something which is objective, and there are certain reasons for that. Historically, journalism has not always been very objective. For example, during the freedom struggle, we were looking to get the opinion of the editor of the newspaper that we were reading. For example, if I was reading Mahatma Gandhi's newspapers, I wanted to know his views on certain things. So, views were important, and at that point of time, just the information was not enough, because we were not just looking for information, we were looking for opinion. We were looking for opinion of that particular editor, or of that particular person whom we regarded as someone whom we could follow. So, we started off, or journalism had that element where objective information was not required. We wanted to get subjective opinion of people who mattered or people whom we wanted to follow. The idea of objectivity is almost always related to an American model of revenue generation, which wanted to make the newspaper reach out to the maximum possible audience. And this is because we wanted to create a dual market for the media. Dual market in the sense we wanted the newspaper subscriber not to pay too much, we wanted to subsidize their payment through the use of advertisers. So, advertisers would pay a major chunk of the revenue, and the person who was consuming content, or the person who was reading the newspaper, he or she was not paying that much money. So, because a newspaper was supposed to reach out to a lot of people, it was imperative that they not take sides, or they do not put off people. As I said in the starting of today's lecture, that there is something known as confirmation bias. If I take sides, or if I say that somebody is good, or if I say that somebody is bad, when I say somebody is bad, I am putting off all the people who do not believe that that person or that party is bad. They think that no, he or she is not doing such a bad job, you are not right. So, they will not consume my content. But if I put away these contentious things and I only talk about things which are not about taking sides, and I reach out to a lot of people, because nobody is offended and there is no confirmation bias. So, that is why this objectivity is related to in history to an American kind of a revenue generating model, where people do not take sides and we present both sides. We present both sides of the event, or we present both sides of the opinion. For example, there is a certain thing that okay, whether we should kind of have a 4-year course, or we should have a 3-year course. Then there could be certain kinds of opinions which are for a 3-year course. There would be opinion for a 4-year course. So, we present both the information together. The newspaper on its own does not take sides. It says this is one point of view, this is the other point of view, and let the readers decide. That is one point of it, that objectivity is obtained through presenting both kinds of opinion. The other is using factual, verifiable information, and information which is not just factual, which people regard as fact and credible, but it is verifiable, that if somebody has doubts about that information, he or she can kind of verify that information through other means as well. So, one of the definitions of objective reporting is that it is based on factual, verifiable information, and it is presented without the influence of personal feelings or biases. It focuses on presenting news events as they are. It relies on facts and evidence. Objective reporting is often regarded as a foundational for credible journalism, because often objectivity is also seen as a synonym for accuracy. For example, providing an accurate point of view, not giving your point of view, but a general point of view, so that everybody regards this as accurate. For example, if I am quoting some kind of an event, I quote an official source, so that he or she is accountable for the accuracy of the information. Fairness, that I am fair to everybody and unfair to none, and that is again a very important part of objectivity in journalism, that we are being fair to all parties concerned. And what this means is that if somebody is a known criminal, then we do not give him equal status with the lawmakers, but we give him a fair view as well, or we let him have his point of view as well. Of course, the other question is that of impartiality, that knowingly or unknowingly you do not take sides. You are impartial, you are neutral, you are just like a commentator who sees what is happening, and you just say that for the audience. For example, it could be like straight simple commentary, that if someone hits a 4, we just say that it's a 4. We do not give opinions on that. So, achieving this true objectivity can be very challenging, and there are a number of reasons for that. One of them is inherent biases. As I said, there could be a lot of biases. There are a lot of biases that we know about. For example, that I could be a fan of Manchester United, or I could be a fan of the Indian cricket team, or I could be a fan of democracy, I could be a fan of Indian philosophy. So, I have my own biases, I have my own likes, and when I keep up or when I put out this journalistic content, whether I like it or not, those inherent biases could come out without my knowing it. It is there in the subconscious. Of course, there are societal influences. It depends on the society. If I see something happening around me, or if I see something which people like or something which people do not like, then I will always give out content which I think will be socially desirable. I will not give out content which might be regarded as socially not desirable. So, these societal influences are also a very important part in objectivity. And finally, the external pressures are also an issue. For example, when it's a very powerful entity that you are reporting against, then you might not be able to achieve total objectivity in that kind of a case. Fact versus opinion, and this is something that we have to kind of differentiate between when we are doing journalism or when we are writing any kind of professional output or professional content. Fact is something which is verifiable. Fact is something for which there is eminent evidence, and that is something which cannot be disputed, and you have reasons to not doubt the veracity of that particular fact. Opinion is something about your ideas about that fact. I might think that this is happening because of one particular reason, or I might think that it should not happen in that kind of a way, or I might believe that this way of doing classes is not good or whatever. So, opinion is subjective, fact is not, and this is something that has been the hallmark of the old school journalism. Facts are sacred, comments are free, and this is something that we should regard it as a very, very important hallmark of regular journalism. Fact is something which is verifiable, which is evidence based, which is something undisputed, and which can stand the test of any kind of evidence or questioning. Opinion is a person's subjective view. It can be based on facts, it can be based on evidence, but at the end of the day, it is one person's opinion, it is not a fact. If I say that the weather of Ahmedabad is cool, it's an opinion. If there's a European person who comes there, he might say that the weather of Ahmedabad is not cool, it is hot. So, that is an opinion, it is based on his or her own background. So an opinion is something that is not always true for other people, but if I say that the temperature is 26 degrees, that's a fact. So facts in journalism are objective, verifiable pieces of information that stand independent of personal views. Opinions are subjective interpretations or judgments based on individual perspectives. For example, we can just have this information that the air quality index is such and such. So this is an objective, verifiable piece of information that kind of lets us know, or that kind of tells us what is the level of pollution in a particular area. Opinion, on the other hand, are subjective interpretations. So at the same AQI level, depending on your own individual perspective, you might feel extremely sick, or you might be okay with it because you are used to it. So this is kind of a crude example, but this is a very important distinguishing factor between what is fact and what is opinion. Opinions are subjective interpretations based on individual perspectives. It need not be wrong. It's just that it might differ from person to person. But facts are something which do not depend on personal views. They are independent of personal views. Effective journalism has to have a proper balance between factual reporting and opinion-based content. Facts form the foundation of trustworthy reporting. People read newspapers, people see television, people hear radio because they think that the content is believable, because these platforms are credible, because all these platforms over the years have built this foundation of trust on facts. But opinions are important as well, as I said earlier about the history of Indian journalism, that people often wanted to know the opinions and diverse viewpoints of celebrities, of leaders, of people who matter, or the common man as well. So they are also required in journalism. It's the question of balancing these facts and opinion. And the credibility of a news outlet hinges on its ability to distinguish between fact and opinion in its reporting. If it is biased towards either, it can impact its perceived trustworthiness and authority. And these are two very important terms, because if you are not very good with your facts, or if you do not regard facts as sacred, then the people might start mistrusting you. You will lose your trustworthiness. On the other hand, if you do not have an opinion in matters in which you should have an opinion, then you do not have the authority of the fourth estate. You have the job of educating, informing, guiding people, and you will not be able to perform this function if you do not have that authoritative voice. So opinions are also a requirement in journalism. So proper balancing, this proper differentiation between facts and opinion is very, very important. Consistency in objective information. So objective information is consistent across different reports, and we have to see that, because this is something which is unaffected by individual perspectives or interpretations. So if it is objective information, it has to be same across different reports. The AQI report, as a point, as I said, if the AQI index is that, it will remain the same. If we say that a party has won a certain number of seats, it remains the same. If we say that there has been a decline in school dropouts, it remains the same, unaffected by individual perspectives or opinions. In contrast, subjective opinion can vary significantly. It reflects the diverse viewpoints and interpretations of different individuals. It is more flexible and adaptable, but can lead to inconsistencies. Objective reporting is generally closer to the truth due to its reliance on verifiable facts. It is based on verifiable facts, so it has to be closer to the truth. So these are the differences that a new writer or a new journalist should know before he gets into the field of everyday journalism. While subjective objective reporting offers valuable insights, it requires careful consideration to avoid misinformation. While, as we said, that subjective information has its needs, has its requirements, but it cannot be a platform where people come up with any kind of information, or they get a platform to say or to dispense misinformation. So that's very information that one has to be very clearly see what is misinformation and do not allow personal opinions to take this route to spread more misinformation. So subjective reporting is very much welcome. It is allowed, but it should not lead to misinformation. The practice of objectivity has to depend on all these three factors, as we said: accuracy, fairness, and impartiality. So objectivity has to be on facts. It has to be something that has to be part of journalists' everyday toolkit, but at the same time they should allow readers to form opinions also. So there must be opinion, but they must be separate from facts. There is the concept of editorial and opinion journalism also, and editorials and opinions and columns are there because they are there to provide subjective information, and we have discussed that in details earlier. So this question of media bias is always there in lot of questions about the tendency of a news outlet to present news in a particular way, often influenced by political leanings, and that might lead to skewed presentation of news, and it might impact public perception as well. So the fourth estate will be failing in its function if people do not see the differences between the fact and opinion. The fourth estate, as we know, serves as a crucial role in holding those in power accountable. So the traditional role of the press as the fourth estate would face challenges if there were a rise of misinformation. Thank you very much for your patience, and I'll be back with the fourth part of this Unit 1 very soon. Have a great time, and I was recording this lecture at the Chaitanya studio at the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.